Hockey Inside Out, brought to you by Videotron.
Welcome to the HIO show. I'm joined by Dave Stubbs, and glad to see Chris Nilan back, recovering from an upper body injury, I guess we'll call it, Chris.
Sure, you're glad.
I know you've sung the national anthem on this show before, but I think Jeanette Renaud might have you beat from her performance.
Yeah, she can have it. She really belts it out, huh? Very animated. I think she thinks everybody loves her. Do they?
I think they do now.
I think they do.
In the media room, a lot of people.
But you know what? You know what? The anthem singer does not win hockey games, enough's enough.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about this finally is it occurred to me how ridiculous hockey is in this city when it dawned on me that we were wondering whether or not the anthem singer was going to be a game time decision finally. I mean, she has to go and see her cardiologist before she sings the anthem.
She had an upper body injury.
That's right. But you know what? I mean, hey, it was fascinating to see how the Canadians have responded and what they have done, and they shocked me. I sat here in this chair last week and said 6 games. I never would have guessed it would have gone at 4. I talked to Lars Eller after the game. He said none of us were thinking that it was going to be a sweep, but he said, you know what, we weren't looking at any number of games. You just look at one game, you play that game, you shut it down, you move on to the next one.
I joked on Twitter during Game 4, I said Jeanette Renaud could have been the first star, and John Leclerc could have been the second star, because that wasn't Rene Bourque wearing number 17, Chris. What's going on there?
Yeah, well, he certainly has turned things around. I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. Like, you know, we certainly had enough to say about him when he was not playing well, and for the better part of the season that was. A guy gets scratched 9 times. I mean, come on. You know something's going on there. You get paid to play and perform during the regular season, not so much in the playoffs, right? But I'm glad to see he's turned it around. I hope he keeps going this way and he doesn't revert back to his old self. But it just goes to show you what a guy can do when he brings some intensity to his game. He skates, and he seems like he wants to play.
And he's using his size now,
He didn't seem
Chris,
that way.
right? Yeah.
Did not seem that way at all during the season.
Yeah.
How much of it might be just confidence, Chris? Does that play a big role for a guy like that?
I don't know. Confidence. I mean, the coach will have confidence in you if you show him you're going to play for him and you're going to work hard for him. He's going to put you out there. You know, confidence, I don't know. You do it to yourself. If you want to bring it, you can bring it. Listen, you go out and you struggle. You look at Max. He struggled in scoring goals in this series. He didn't stop. He kept playing. He kept trying hard. Yeah, he was a little frustrated, but he kept going. So, you know, I don't buy the confidence.
Yeah, Vanek said before, I think it would have been Game 3, that listen, we are in the situation now that we're not stressed. That first line is not stressed because, he said, it's not as though we're not getting our chances. I mean, in Game 3, they could have made that game 6-0 early on. They had so many chances. But you know what, at some point, these guys finally decide that we're going to have to do this, and we're just going to have to keep plugging. And then finally, I mean, it wasn't a pretty goal. Apache Reddy scored finally in the last, 42 seconds last night. But it was a goal that's the type of goal the Canadians need. They need just to jam up
how.
Exactly.
How many,
you know what? It looks like an end-to-end rush in the summary, right?
Yeah, that's all.
Now they could have 10 or 11 days off, Chris, before the next series. As a player, would you have welcomed that, or is that too long?
You know, you know, that's what you dealt. You dealt. You win 4 games. You got 11 games off. You know, we'll hear it, I'm sure, before the series, right before it, and then depending on how they'll play in the first game, if they come out flat in the first game, we're going to say, oh my God, they had 11 days off. Oh. And if they come out and win, they're going to say, oh, they were well rested. So, you know, they just have to take this time to rest up, heal up. Everybody has injuries this time of year, something. I think it'll be good for them moving forward, especially if they're going to face the likes of the Boston Bruins.
If you want job security in the game of hockey, you want the guy who has the ice concession in any team's clinic at this time of the year, because every single one of those guys, from goaltender to the forwards to the defensemen, all of these guys are banged up. And when we asked Lars Eller about it last night after the game, after the Canadians had knocked out the Lightning, he said, you know what? Rest is a weapon. And it was a really interesting quote. It's just, look, we need some time now just to kind of let our bumps and bruises heal. Yes, we're riding a wave of momentum, and yes, we know we're going to have to be ready and ramp it back up. But at this point of the season, when all of these guys are hurting, rest is going to be a really fabulous thing for them to
I'm
have.
thinking no one can use that weapon more right now than Brandon Prust. He didn't look like Brandon Prust. I mean, he's always going to give you 100% effort, but to look like there might be something.
Yeah, you know, she missed a lot of time, you know, down the stretch. She was hurt, obviously, upper body injury, and it takes time to get your timing back, get back into that game shape. You know, you come back first game, it's all adrenaline, and then you settle in. Reality sets in. And when you're not used to playing that physical game, that skating game, and you're out of the lineup, practice is practice. There's nothing like being in game shape. The only way you get in game shape is by playing games.
Unreported till now is that Brandon Prust cost himself $90 by not scoring the game-winning goal because I drew him in the press box pool, and if he had scored, I went on Twitter, I said, I will share my winnings with you, Brandon, but hey, buddy, you lost $90. It was $180 who went to Marc Defoy, the Journal de Montreal, who drew Pat Giretti's name.
Wow. Now, even if he's not 100%, Brandon Prust, I think, makes Brendan Gallagher 2 inches taller playing on that line riding shotgun for him, Chris.
Well, I just think the whole line works. And having him there, you know, it's like, you know, Mike Faber said it about me back in the day. It's like Linus and the security blanket, you know.
I remember that.
It's nice to know the guy's there. It's nice to have him in the lineup. He's a leader, and not just the fighting part of it. He hits. He's vocal in the room. Guys like him. And he works his butt off, you know, regardless of if he hasn't looked like Brandon Prust. He's out there, he's giving the effort, he's trying as hard as he can. I didn't think he played that badly, to be honest with you.
I don't think Gallagher's going to take the same beating in front of the net as he has with Brandon there. Now, the lines, they seem to be set. He's got 4 lines, and he seems to be sticking with them. And now the depth they have, like who sits?
Exactly.
When Galchenyuk comes back or Moan comes back.
Exactly. You look at the balance that this team has now, and that's been something that has really helped this club. Michel Therrien has been able to pretty much roll his 4 lines, and no one is really beaten down to the point that they're physically exhausted. It's not like a couple of years ago where he was having to use just one line and do nothing but throw these guys out there, almost double shift them out. You know, so you're in a situation now where these guys, as beaten up as they are still reasonably or relatively fresh. So yeah, it really is going to be an interesting challenge to see where he's going to plug Galchenyuk and where Moen may or may not fit.
Well, you look at, you know, the 4th line, Briere, Weiss, and Bourneval. I mean, Bourneval, great on the forecheck. Weiss hitting, great on the forecheck, good skater. Briere's there to pick up the loose change, you know, and distribute. Yeah. You know, that line played incredible. Really good hockey. So if you're going to fit people in, where are you going to fit them in? That's probably the most likely place. But does Moen knock Weiss out of the box? Weiss had a great series. Yeah. He played well. He's playing well. Does Bourneval come out, Moen go in? Depending on who they face. Boston. Are you going to keep Brienne in there against Boston, or you put White in the middle because it's going to be a tougher series? Have to wait and see. But right now, everything's close.
Where does Charles Prévost-Linton fit back into the lineup, right? I mean, well, here he is now a healthy scratch for the last few games. I don't see him coming back to sing the anthem anytime soon.
Well, it was only a 4-game series. Bouillon and Markov were the only 2 guys who didn't get a point, and 10 different guys scored goals. We'll be back after a short break, and we'll talk about French referees at the Bell Center. Welcome back to the HIO show. Now, Ron MacLean has landed himself in a bit of hot water, suggesting that French referees maybe shouldn't work at the Bell Center. Chris, is this do other teams around the league feel this way? Is this something?
I don't know. It's kind of absurd to me that he'd say something like that. And again, it doesn't matter the referee. I mean, some nights they're on, some nights they're off. But you know, it's funny. You know, I travel around Canada, different places, and there's times I hear some disdain for the French and how they want to separate and the PQ and this and that, and I just get like, oh, I don't want to hear it, you know, because I don't have a problem here. People say, oh, how is it up there living with the French? It's fine. I love living in Quebec. I wouldn't be here if I didn't, and I've never had a problem with the French people. When we look at the refereeing and then McLean saying what he said, again, you know, he apologized. Did he really mean it? I believe he did. You know, and he's backpedaling now. I believe he really. I mean, I'm going to come out and make a statement like that and not mean it.
I don't believe it's not. It's a matter of the NHL not being transparent. But one thing I wouldn't mind learning would be how the NHL assigns its referees. They have a pool of guys who they use during the postseason. Maybe it's geographical. Maybe they're moving them from one place into another building because it's fairly close, and travel and all the other things that go into it. But the perception is there, and perception is so important. That doesn't mean you don't want to see a Francophone or a French-Canadian referee working the Bell Center. Presumably, these guys are all on equal footing. They are proving themselves every game, and series to series they are being evaluated, and then we're finding out whether or not they've made the grade to move on to the next round.
Listen, so the coach has to be French. the referees don't have to be. Or maybe they do. Maybe we'll have to have 2 French referees and 2 French linesmen.
Well, what do you do? You not have Toronto guys referee Leaf games in
I want to
Toronto?
know how many Toronto Maple Leaf games King Clancy refereed, right? The King, right? The King played on the Leafs, for heaven's sakes, and he refereed them 1,000 times back in the 1800s.
Well, former NHL ref Kerry Fraser tweeted, he said, you can't have anybody with an Irish name now referee a game in Boston either.
Really? Yeah. Paul Stewart was the last one.
Now, regardless of who the referee was in Game 4, the penalty at the end of the 3rd period, everybody was tweeting, everybody in the press box saying the whistles have gone away, they're not going to call anything. Yeah. What's your thought when you see a penalty like that called so late in the game?
I just think it was a blatant trip. I mean, it was. You know, again, they let stuff go, but I think they were letting more of the cross-checking go, the rough stuff, but when it came to that, they called it. It was a blatant trip. The puck gets turned over there, and the puck ends up in Montreal's net. Ooh, someone has Major League egg on their face. So he had to call it.
Yeah. You just wonder about how the calls are made and how these guys actually decide that with 2.5 minutes to go in that game, or 2 minutes and 11 seconds, something like that is called. That is deep in the Montreal end of the ice. It's a stupid penalty. You know that Paquette would like that back 1,000 times from Sunday, but I mean that's a bad penalty. I mean he knows it, everyone in the building knows it, and they call it. But you're right, Chris. I mean so much stuff is let go. I mean there was a mugging, Stamkos mugging Emelin, and I think that Emelin certainly embellished his going down and drawing the hook, I think, on Stamkos, but then Stamkos jumps him and wails on him a couple of times. Yeah. There's nothing. So it's just, you just don't know where they sort of are pulling things out of their rule book to say, okay, he's done this, so the punishment is that. There doesn't seem to be rhyme or reason. And what bothers me is that where everything else in the playoffs moves up to a different level, where the level improves, where the play is better, where it's more intense, it just seems that the refereeing goes the other direction.
Couple of mistakes too, and not to pick on this kid Paquette, but he was all upset that the Canadians didn't draft him.
He was going to make them pay.
Like he's Mario Lemieux or something. I mean, come on. Sorry, you didn't get drafted by the Habs, but you know maybe we know why now. He was a big mistake on the first goal. Was on there for the second, and then that tripping penalty. Maybe it's a good thing we didn't draft him.
Chris, he'll finish up his career, come back as a referee. He'll referee at the Bell Center.
And there we go.
There we go.
Now, Matt Cook's in hot water again for his knee. Personally, I thought Milan Lucic's spear from behind between the legs was worse than that. That was a premeditated thing where Lucic got up. He says, "I'm going to get this guy." He spears him. He doesn't even get a suspension, Chris.
Well, the league didn't think so. And again, I don't have a problem with what Lucic did. If you can get away with it, go right ahead. You know, it's twice now he's done it. The league has given him a pass the first time. They didn't do a thing. This time they give him a little cab money fine. I mean, $5,000. Let's go. Yeah. And then.
You know, paid that out of his pocket,
yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And we look at Matt Cook, be honest with you, I think he's going to get the hammer this time again because, you know, it wasn't a reactionary thing. It wasn't like, oh, the last second he stuck his knee out. If you look at the replay, good 5 to 6 feet before he's going to hit him, he sticks his knee out. It's out there already. He's getting ready to knee him. It wasn't one of those reactions.
It was still more reactionary than Lucic.
The fine that
was a
Lucic
premeditated
takes
attack from behind.
The fine that Lucic takes is laughable. I mean, that's not even the maximum. I think he could have been fined $10,000. They made it $5,000. Joel Kenneville, meanwhile, grabs his own crotch in reference to the refereeing, and he's fined $25,000. Now,
crazy!
He's not.
You're taking someone's crotch on the end of your stick.
Yeah, I would call it the not sweet nutcracker, right? I mean, and it wasn't. I'm just, you know, I know that Kenneville is not governed by the collective bargaining agreement, and Lucic is. But I mean, the thing that I found kind of funny about it all at the end is that Lucic is saying, "I played in the league for 7 years, and that's only the 3rd time I've done it." So like he's cataloging the fact that he's going around.
I think he's not sure. Real honestly, I don't think he's sure if there's cameras out there watching him or not. I think he thinks there's only
Is it really not that
There's only one camera. There's only one camera.
If the Canadians draw the Boston Bruins in the second round, I would like to think that they will invest a little bit of money, the Habs will, on some extra strong steel cups because maybe Lucic isn't done yet.
What would have happened if Lucic did that to you? Although I don't think he would have.
Wow.
Beyond the fact he'd be in the
There would have been a response.
Okay.
So Bruins or Red Wings, which team matches up better for the next round?
I don't, you know, whoever the Canadians have to play, they're going to have to beat. Doesn't matter if it's Detroit or Boston. Yeah. I happen to think Boston is going to prevail over Detroit, so it doesn't matter who they play. They have to beat what's in front of them, what team is in front of them. They have to beat in order to get to the final. And you know what? It would be better if they play Boston and they beat Boston. It'd be so much better.
I think they
I'd love
match up
to see
better
it.
against the Bruins too, Chris. I think that the Bruins just somehow, when
If
they play
they
the
use their
Canadiens,
speed.
yes, yeah, when the Canadiens play the Bruins, Boston just somehow loses their minds. They can't play their game, or they're running around trying to play their game, and the Habs' speed just always seems to nullify that. So we'll see. I think they match up better against the Bruins.
Well, that's it for this week's HIO show. Playoff fever definitely in Montreal. Chris, great to see you back again.
Oh yeah, see that teeth?
Those new teeth, they look good, huh?
Pearly white. Hey.
Just don't sing.
We'll see you all next week.